Well, hello, everybody. It is Tara and Ellis, both psychologists at Sojourn Psychology, back again. And Ellis and I, so often when we meet on Zoom, we end up talking about the changes that are occurring and how it's changing or challenging our thought life. And something that Ellis and I were talking about is just the old standards or old expectations and how we're seeing those shift just right now. So what do you think, Ellis? Like, how are you noticing this for yourself these days?
Yeah, well, I think that one of the things that really jumps out to me is these old standards. They're old measures of how I might have viewed success or progress or growth in the past. So, for example, we've talked in the past about going to the gym, physical fitness. In the past, a way that I might have measured my success is how much did I lift that day? How good was my form? How much time was I able to complete my whole exercise in? How fast did I go? Distance, duration, whatever it is. And when I can make progress, one of the things that if you've talked with me in the past, one of the things that I aim for is that any progress is progress, it's growth, and it's achievement that you can contribute to yourself. So I always try to aim for that. But one of the challenges is that what happens when you're not able to do that? And I think that really jumped out to me in December when all the gyms were closed again. Being able to access certain amounts of weight, being able to access certain amounts of equipment, I suddenly started feeling like I wasn't doing much. It felt like I was doing a disservice to myself. I wasn't trying, or I wasn't, something didn't feel good though. It wasn't sitting right. Um, and I think part of that was I wasn't really aware of it until I really tried to be more mindful of what it was. But it is that I was using my old standards of comparing myself of how I might measure success or progress to my current self when those standards just weren't appropriate. I can't do those things anymore. Um, the That might look like, let's say, if we did, I was talking about the ABCD model in the past. So the anteceding event, let's say, is with deadlifting. My deadlift, I'm only able to access about half of the weight that I typically use for deadlift. So the anteceding event is that today I deadlifted with half of the weight. The belief of that is that I'm regressing. I'm not as strong anymore. I'm not trying, or there's a decrease in my ability to do my deadlift. And then C, the consequence of that belief is I feel down. I feel worried, anxious. I feel like I'm not pushing myself. I'm regressing. I'm not trying hard enough. I'm losing strength. Something over there. Now, D, the dispute would be really important is recognizing that thought pattern. So this old standard of how I might consider success, um, disputing that might be that, hey, you can't actually do this old standard right now. You don't have access to the weight. It's physically impossible for me to do that. So to hold myself to the old standard only serves to set me up for example, and serves to make me feel sad, depressed, anxious, angry, all these feelings that feel frustration about something that I can't actually do anything about. So that might be one of the things about how I challenge that. And then as a result, maybe another thing that I can do instead might be to create new standards. How can I still challenge myself given the current circumstances? That like all these new measures of COVID, how can I create new measures so that I can still find success and growth, but maybe in different ways that I might not have thought before that are different than the old standard?
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And we all have to change and modify, and what was realistic and reasonable prior to is different.
Mm,
So your example of the weights, and like we have to accept the limits that are put over us right now so that we can redefine our goals, just as you're
mm,
speaking about, so that we can confront those negative thoughts and beliefs. And I feel a very similar sentiment about what I could do pre-COVID. And mine is a little bit more confusing because it's the mental fatigue of COVID.
Mm.
In the past, what worked for me was I would do these programs that would run with physical activity 7 days a week. But I mentally, I just can't do it. And so it has been this ABCD conversation inside of my brain to accept rest days.
Sure.
That for me, it's like it's okay to be gentle with myself, to be reasonable with myself, and remind myself this is what I need right now. This is the formula that's going to work for me. And I
Mm.
think when that sadness or that grief comes in because we can't do what we were doing before, to honor it. You know, that disputing, sometimes the disputing is also to just say, hey, yeah, it is sad. And, you know, feel the fear and do it anyways. And I love this quote, Ellis, you know, any progress is progress.
Mm.
And we think it's like not as good a progress if we're lifting less weights or we're exercising fewer times in a week. And there's many other examples. This is just what Ellis and I talk about with each other. We talk about different things with different people, but it's I don't maybe understand the progress that I'm making
Mm.
completely, but any progress is progress. So there's something that's going on for me on some level, even if I don't quite know what it is just right now.
Sure. And and as you were talking about this, something that really jumped out to me too is that your standards, even as you create new standards, we're in such a dynamic state right now that there's going to be more fluctuations. And then so the new standards you create may only be great for this month. And then something new happens. We've seen so much dynamic change in regulations of COVID that even just recognizing that, like when you said grief, I think it's like the grief and the loss of what you think is normal. Our normal is constantly changing. It's not this is a new normal. It's there's new normal every month.
Yeah,
And
remember the new normal in November? Yeah.
yeah, right.
Remember the new normal in December?
There's so many.
Yes.
And part of that, like that grief might be that loss of like, I thought this is this was life, but it's changing again.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so it's just that continual conversation with ourselves. This is awesome. Another great example. Thank you so much, Ellis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye.